Hey, and welcome back to I Want to Tell You, a Beatles podcast, which sounds better than The Long and Winding Road,
I agree.
better than Magical Mystery Podcast.
Was that one of them?
That was kind of the ones I was kicking around.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, you're For You Blue, and I was like, that fits, and you were just like, how?
Yeah. I mean, I remember before we ended up recording the first one, I think we went through almost every single song, and we're like, how would this work? How would this work?
I Want to Hold Your Podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it won't be long because we knew that like it could end up being like 2 hours when we talk about the Beatles.
Got to Get You Into My Life.
Yeah. I remember you were kind of keen on that one.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But we're going to be talking the second Beatles album today, With the Beatles, which was just like we kind of talked about Please Please Me last week, which here in the States for decades was kind of separated into two albums, specifically Meet the Beatles and the Beatles' second album. The big thing about With the Beatles, they, unlike the first album, which was recorded in its entirety over a single marathon session, they recorded With the Beatles over seven separate sessions over the course of basically the summer and early autumn of 1963, and they released it just in time for Christmas. Huge seller, pre-orders out the wazoo. But yeah, having those like 7 separate days to work on it, they had it sounds a little more put together than Please Please Me.
And one of the great things about the Beatles, and one of the things that trickled over to bands like Queen that I love so much, is you can hear the progression. And that doesn't mean every single song has to be bigger and better. Yeah. But
they're using the same production materials as they were in Please Please Me.
Yeah,
they just had more time.
But you can hear the growth and the confidence building. And that's something that'll be cool as we do them. In order here, we'll be able to really think about and talk about how you hear the building of them really revolutionizing music.
So you would just like off the bat just consider this album superior to its predecessor?
I would. There's more songs in here that I just that I dig, and I don't know. It's just there's something about it, even as much as the album cover, which is one of their, it's funny. Almost all their album covers are just iconic.
There are a few exceptions, and we'll mention those.
Yeah. Some of them are iconic for not being iconic.
Yeah.
But this is one that I think I've seen every kind of genre parody.
Yeah.
Every kind of band parody of this. Just the 4-headed monster, as the Rolling Stones would refer to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and it starts off with the first track, It Won't Be Long.
Yeah, which is kind of like almost like a gunshot, like right out the gate, real fast, kind of like the Please Please Me, but this one's written by John Lennon. It's you've got the dueling not so much dueling harmonies, but you've got Paul and George like chiming in between John, like just like shouting the title to the song and everything. Yeah. It's a winner. It is.
I do love the call and response stuff that like you were saying, Lennon and McCartney and Harrison do. It's a real simple, great early Beatles rock song. There's nothing else, no fluff. It's just awesome.
Yeah. The second track is also written by Lennon. It's All I've Got to Do. It's okay. What I really like about With the Beatles is even the lesser tracks, unlike say Please Please Me, are still decent. There's still enough that keeps you kind of going.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was kind of it's Lennon trying to channel Smokey Robinson, who is a huge influence on him. He loves Fats Domino, Smokey Robinson, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. That all kind of shows up. But yeah, it's his attempt to kind of channel that in his own. But after such a fast tempo song, I think that's why that song All I've Got to Do kind of suffers a bit.
A bit, yeah. It's funny. I love how long he stretches the word do. He will stretch that over a couple measures. But yeah, it's what's interesting, like just doing something like this and thinking about it, like how much I love like early Lennon stuff. You know what I mean? Because he was still so much about the Beatles. I feel like most people are more attuned to like the Sergeant, the as you would say the second act, third act Beatles stuff. And Lennon puts in great stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but he's got a little more heart in the early stuff.
Yeah. Well, also he wears his in his earlier stuff, he wears his influences on his sleeve.
Yeah,
which is why I think this and Please Please Me fit right in in like the background at a silver diner, because it's just like it's very much a product of its time, but at the same time it stands pretty clear, pretty well on its own too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's an okay track.
It's got what even some of the lesser Beatles tracks have, and you can hum it. It's catchy, and it's got some great little moments of melody in there.
I would say that a big thing about this album, they had recorded the bulk of their live set with their previous album, and so they're doing more takes, and there's almost, in some of their weaker tracks, including this one, I feel like there's almost like an instrumental uncertainty, like we haven't played this one to death. Like we're not used to this quite
What
yet.
is this new, fresh feeling?
Yeah, I've got to do new
music.
songs. I have to write stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all right. The next track is McCartney's songwriting debut on the album. Not overall, but all my loving, which they play in the background in the club scene in Hard Day's Night.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic track.
Oh yeah.
That's a lower tempo song that, unlike All I've Got to Do, works.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of my favorite early McCartney songs. Probably my favorite McCartney written song on this album.
I'd go that far. I mean, but again, this is such a juggernaut of a song,
Yeah.
And this is one of those examples of Harrison putting in one of those guitar solos that you can sing, and it's just this great hopping around on the fretboard Harrison solo. They count each other in, they they're shouting and yelling, having a good time as they're playing it, and it gives this, I guess, again, how many times have we talked about off mic about like Harrison being underrated as a guitar player,
Yeah, everyone. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to think all of them played guitar minus Ringo. Because you didn't, as a kid, you probably don't know the bass exists.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh.
Paul's the guy who's like, unfortunately after Stuart Sutcliffe passes away, they're like, you're bass. He's like, I don't want to be bass.
But he brings a more melodic sensibility.
Well, that's
to
the thing.
his bass
It's that thing of, he doesn't play bass like guitar, but he plays it with that melodic mind where it's not just playing the root notes here and there. You're able to
ad nauseum.
You're playing these really rich, great bass parts, which he brings bass to the forefront. Also with Harrison though, like this is a great example of Harrison can add a lick to a song that changes it for the better. It doesn't have to be this like this verse that changes your mind on the outlook of the world, or this insanely guitar shredding overdubbed crazy. It's just this little perfect little lick here, and it makes it a Beatles song.
Yeah, the beauty's in the simplicity, really.
Yeah.
When Paul was playing the tribute concert for Linda McCartney in the 90s after she had passed away, he did this song with Elvis Costello. And when they were doing rehearsals, he was like, "Hey, do you need any practice with this song?" And Costello was like, "I've only been practicing it for like 30 years.
Yeah. Well,
one of his favorites.
Speaking of Harrison and just the tribute stuff real quick is when I saw Paul McCartney on the Driving Rain tour, Harrison had passed away fairly recently, and he pulled out a ukulele and he was like, my buddy, really used to love this thing, and blah blah blah. He's ticking around and playing around, and he plays something. And he plays something just by himself with it, just him and the instrument. And then when the chorus kicks in, the whole band like explodes in, and it was just one of the coolest moments.
Like Dave Grohl playing Times Like
These. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the 11-11-11 show. But it's nice. Just reminded me of like just these little moments where the Beatles can.
Yeah. Speaking of Harrison, his songwriting debut, period, is the next track, Don't Bother Me, which they also play in the club scene in Hard Day's Night. They basically showcase 3 tracks off this album. They're like, we still need to promote it or whatever, I guess, even though that, they've got another album to promote. But it's okay.
Yep.
He was the lyrical inspiration and kind of more melancholy inspiration behind it is he was sick at home at the time, and he writes a song called Don't Bother Me, really as a challenge to see if he could do it, because he's sharing creative space with Paul McCartney and John Lennon. So there's a little intimidation there, and he's like, I want to see if I could do it, and that's what it came out, and it's okay. It's not like something interesting about this album. This album's got 3 tracks where Harrison takes the lead vocals, which after this they don't let him do again until like Revolver. Or Rubber Soul. Yeah. So it's an interesting song. It's an okay song. I always like the Harrison tracks because they break up the monotony of it a bit.
Mm-hmm. He's always got a wit there.
Yeah, and it's not his best song. And I think he said as much. He's like, I was kind of crappy, but I just want to see if I could do it. And it's like,
well, it gave him the
gumption.
It gave him the gumption, gave him the balls to stand toe to toe with them and like try to write some songs. And we'll get to the his shining moments a couple albums down, but
yeah,
it's all about progression with the Beatles.
Yeah,
with everything.
Now the next track, Little Child, was originally written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney as a song for Ringo Starr to sing.
Mm-hmm.
But they preferred him to sing I Want to Be Your Man, so Lennon decided to take the vocals for this track himself. It's, interestingly enough, even by this album, their second album, he's already starting to move away from the harmonica, which had shown up pretty prominently in their earlier work. But yeah, it shows up here. I love the song.
Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody refers to someone as like child, like as a term of like touching, like romantic endearment, always puts me the fuck off.
It's weird. It's weird. And it,
what President Woodrow Wilson would call his second wife, like lovingly? Little girl.
That's that's
fuck you, Wilson.
Different time, I guess. Because
thank you for ending World War I, but fuck you.
That's weird, man. Yeah, I don't know what. I do. Yeah, the intro's great. It's kind of a cool little rocker, and
it reminds me of there's like a U2 song that uses a harmonica from like the
super reverb and the Edge playing the same chord progression over and over again.
Yeah, Joshua Tree Status. But no, I think it was off like Acton Baby or something or Pop. But like it's got a cool harmonica riff that I feel almost feels kind of cribbed from this or inspired. If I want to be a little more diplomatic, from this track. But yeah, it's a solid number. Odd choices of terms of endearment aside. Now the next track is the first cover on the album. There isn't that. I mean, there's a few more, but it isn't. I feel like as cover heavy as Please Please Me.
Yeah.
So you've got Till There Was You.
Mm-hmm.
That one, of course, is kind of like the sha na na na. You've got the. I think last episode, I talked about what's his name, the Joker, Mark Hamill's Joker in Arkham City.
Yeah.
Singing Baby It's You or whatever in the previous album. I actually, now that I'm like listening to all these albums from top to bottom again, I'm pretty sure it was actually Till There Was You.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, though. Well, it's funny. My relationship with this track is I'm pretty sure there is a live version of this on the anthology.
Oh, there absolutely is.
And I knew about
it's a live staple.
I know that track, the live track, more than the studio one. There's just I really loved it as a kid. I remember when I was younger, I thought I was like, this is like adult, man. Like this is real music. For some reason, that was like, Till There Was You. But I don't know that, and McCartney's always been my favorite Beatle too. So
yeah, and it's one of he usually doesn't sing covers.
Yeah,
he usually prefers to sing his own stuff.
Yeah, I'll write my own shit.
Yeah, but I will. There's something about early Beatles that makes me think of like the holidays.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you play it in there should be like a Christmas tree or something in the background, or like holly and like lights around. And
I'm trying to remember back to when I was like I was like 9 years old, listening to the anthology album with like headphones on, my fat head and my little body, and just listening to Till There Was You and being like, that was my head is too heavy.
I'll always have a fatter head than my body.
Yeah, I had to lay down because my head was so fat.
Yeah, try as I might,
and my legs were just like in the air, losing blood. And I was just listening to Till There Was You over and over again. I thought that was the coolest thing. I like this cover.
Yeah, it's actually so there's like a trilogy of covers right in the middle, because the next track, which closes out side one if you have it on vinyl, is the Rollover Beethoven.
Or Please Mr. Postman.
Please Mr. Postman. Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But Please Mr. Postman, you've got the call and response from the opening track. The thing that I remember the most about the song, they were performing on one of those British like shows, or probably like lip syncing it on one of those British shows more accurately. And they've got like the Union Jack like hanging behind them and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck yeah. And it's just like they're each on like towers.
Yeah.
But it was a cover of a Marvelettes song.
Yeah.
And it's just it fits perfect.
It's one of those ones where when people talk about covers being better than the original, this is one of those ones where people are like, the Beatles slayed this one.
They do, yeah.
Nothing to take away from the original stuff, because I don't feel like that's like an apt thing. Like, it's it makes the original suck. But this is one of the songs. The first time I heard it, I thought the Beatles wrote it, because it has kind of that won't be long, and it also it proves how in sync they were with their inspirations with music, that they could cover a song like this and also write songs with that
feel.
Yeah, with that feel, and you're not just going, oh, they're just writing another Mr. Postman. Like it has the essence of it with her. And so the call and response is key, and just Lennon's vocals kill on this one.
The hand claps and everything.
Hand claps are the secret to great fucking songs. Like I swear to God, like you listen to some really great songs that like the Beatles or ELO or just like stuff of the 70s and even 80s, and listen and be like, there's a fucking hand clap there. That's what it's something about it, dude. The hand claps are the secret to the world. I swear to God, with music.
Now, speaking of like ELO, because they also covered this next one.
Yeah.
The what kicks off side 2 of With the Beatles is Roll Over Beethoven by Chuck Berry, which has like the same fucking like opening guitar lick as Johnny Be Good, also by Chuck. Yeah. I mean, it's Chuck Berry doing Chuck Berry, so you can't really.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. As I look at our director producer who's like, wasn't it Marty McFly? It's like, fine.
Yes.
Marvin Berry. But no, it's a great number. It's you've got Harrison on vocals too, and I think he does a better. This is probably his best vocal performance on the album.
Yeah, probably because he gets to play somebody else.
Yeah, and he already knows how the song is supposed to go theoretically. But it's a great it's a great way to kick off side 2. I saw a video, and you can see them all on YouTube and stuff. Though the Beatles did just re-release their their anthology of
get that, man.
Me too. I think it's on my Christmas list,
I
but
definitely need to get
all
that.
the remastered videos like in
cool.
beautiful HD. But they're like playing the song live on one of some British program, and there's like people going fucking bananas in the stands, and they're like falling off the bleachers, and it'll like you'll see Paul McCartney kind of like look at the others like, is this supposed to happen? Like, but they don't stop playing, but they're
professionals. They're professionals.
Yeah, but they're like, like, at what point do we like? I think like there you see like security like pushing some of the fans away, and it's just like, is this starting to get out of hand?
Yeah,
is this like Shea Stadium? But no, it's a great way to kick off the.
Yeah, I mean both. If we're doing the vinyl thing, both sides have great opening numbers. Speaking of funny thing of ELO, I always like that when they cover this song, they started with actually playing Beethoven.
Oh yeah.
Because they got the string section to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's
you got a guy that's that musical, that like musically inclined as Jeff Lynne. He's gonna throw some Beethoven in there,
and it's just funny, But I when you get a band that like covers a band that they love, that you just get something extra out of it, Because of course the Beatles love being the Beatles, but they're like, hey man, we get to cover like one of our biggest influences and jam out on this, and everyone knows that song. That was a huge hit. Without the Beatles, obviously. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's got some good. The album's got some good rockin' numbers on it.
Now the next track is another McCartney track. It kind of ends that little triplet of covers. You've got "Hold Me Tight," which they had recorded or they had recorded like a bunch of takes, like a baker's dozen worth of takes during the Please Please Me sessions, because it was part of their live set, and nobody really liked the versions that came out. So unfortunately the tape is destroyed, because nobody knew obviously that the Beatles would go on to become the Beatles.
Sure, yeah.
Though they kept all the anthology takes around. Good. but I mean, I love anthology. That's great. But what's it? So when they resurrected it for With the Beatles, they recorded a version. I think they changed the key it was in to F major, and because apparently that works. But it's the opening chord on A Hard Day's Night, but with the G on top. Afterwards, like you see like the 1980 like Playboy interview that John Lennon did, or any of the interviews that Paul McCartney's done. He's like, that one was just made to order.
Yeah,
like I feel like they just.
Does it bum you out when musicians? I mean, of course, the people who write the songs have every right to say whatever they want about their own music. But as a kid, I had this really great book that was like my Beatles Bible, which is it's every single Beatles song ever written, and it tells you who's writing it, who when they recorded it, when they did whatever dub session, and what each member has to say about it, or a celebrity. And it always bummed me out because Lennon would like trash the shit out of his songs. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, that was crap. That was crap. I like the words, but the music is crap."
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like. There's some strong melody stuff on this. There's some strong vocal stuff I like. But yeah, it's one of those ones that it's not a what's the word I'm looking for?
It's not a winner.
Standout on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. The next track, I always found it ironic that you've got one track called "Hold Me Tight," and then the track immediately after it is "You Really Got a Hold on Me," like back the fuck off, like you're holding me a little too tightly there. But it's that one's a cover too.
Yeah.
It's the last time we hear Harrison take lead vocals on this album. It's probably his like weakest vocal performance on the album.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
I kind of like it.
I'm not saying it's bad,
Yeah.
but it's like. Would you put it over "Don't Bother Me"?
Probably.
Or "Roll Over Basement"?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't know. I like the line. I like the vocal line on it.
Yeah, it was originally a Smokey Robinson song they did with the Miracles.
Yeah. No, I dig it. I'd probably go as far to say it's my favorite of his on the album.
Oh yeah. Is it just like? Do you think it's better, more in his range?
I think it's more in his range, and again, he gives like a little oomph in it. I like it. I like that one.
It's a winner?
I give that Beatles one a check.
Now,
no check plus, but a check.
Just a check.
Yeah, no check minus, no check plus, just a check.
Just a check.
Yeah.
Take what you can get, Harrison.
It's the specter of with the Beatles.
But don't you prefer Quantum of Solace?
Well, yeah, but it's not my least favorite track on. Oh wait, I'm getting my own fucking analogies. It's
Is it the Quantum of Solace?
Probably, yeah. It's a Quantum of Solace. It's Quantum of Solace. Don't Bother Me is probably fucking Spectre.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. I like the more kind of melon. It's more atmospheric. That like kind of steel string guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the next track is the only time we hear Lingo
Rar,
man. He sounds like a fucking Buck Rogers character. Ringo's only vocal track or lead vocal track on this album.
Yeah.
That it plays during the club scene in A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
Like everything else, but it was originally written for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, it was, and it gave them their first number one.
Yeah, their first big hit was written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
And one of my favorite things is like, I love the Rolling Stones as well, and so, but a lot of people when I talk to them and stuff, and like even in college, it'd be like at like bars, people would really get into like Beatles Stones debates, and they'd be like, and the people I would talk to like fucking hated the Beatles. And for me, it was like
I've been in those debates.
Yeah, and for me, it was like I love the Stones too, but like the Beatles are top. My favorite like slam down thing is like, dude, Lennon and McCartney wrote their first hit. You know what I mean? They're like, fuck you, you fucker.
Have you heard their Satanic Majesty's request?
Yeah, really, Jesus.
That's them trying to make Sgt. Pepper's. Guess what? They don't make Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, it's shite, as they say.
They didn't.
That's the specter of the fucking.
They didn't release the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Flying Circus for like 25 years because when they looked back at the tape, they realized that the Who did a much better job than they did, and they were like,
fuck. Again, I know this is about with the Beatles, but I will say the interesting thing about the Stones thing, and we'll probably mention them a million times on this, is as the Beatles are phasing out and fading out, into breaking up, the Stones are fucking cooking, man.
Because that's when they found out that they realized if you try to play like the Beatles in here, you will lose to the Beatles out there.
Yeah, and they were like, you know what? Let's just do. Yeah. Let's do. It's almost like the fucking Let It Be was trying to be the Stones into
White Album to a degree.
Yeah, and the White Album does it much better.
Yeah,
but it's funny because
Lennon always kind of wanted to be a Rolling Stone.
Definitely wanted to be a Rolling Stone
because they got to get away with so much shit.
I feel like
they couldn't because the Beatles were under such high scrutiny.
Yeah. He so wanted to be a Stone. I do like that. Like the thing. Some fan asked Mick Jagger like, how does it feel that you guys outlasted the Beatles. You beat the Beatles. Like, they ended 1970 and
like he doesn't know.
Yeah, and Mick Jagger's like, oh hey, just like fucking jamming on the microphone at a Q&A, like gets up, starts dancing, doing the duck walk thing. He's like, oh hey, yeah. We didn't beat the Beatles, right? they were doing stadiums 10 years before anybody else. All right, like, and I'm first of all, they're probably so fucking sick of hearing it,
Beatles Stones,
man. And like we always joke,
I'm a Rolling Stone.
Yeah, we always joke that the actual like musical thing would be the Beatles versus Beach Boys.
In terms of more similarity.
Musical, like
inspiring
each other back and forth. But anyway,
the only one that felt threatened by the Rolling Stones in the Rolling Stones was Mick Jagger. The only one that felt threatened by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones was Mick Jagger. The only one that felt threatened by the Rolling Stones and the Beatles was John Lennon. Yeah. It wasn't so much that I don't think he felt threatened per se, but he felt jealous that about their lifestyle.
And the difference I feel like with the Beatles and the Beach Boys was as opposed to being threatened, McCartney is the British Brian Wilson, where Brian Wilson is the American Paul McCartney, and they would see each other and they'd be like, "Holy shit, you can do that, you can do that, you can do that," and like that was like they're building.
McCartney hears Pet Sounds and he's like, "Fuck,
yeah,
I need to make like Sgt. Pepper's, I need to make Penny Lane,
and McCartney even says like you're not musically educated until you listen to Pet Sounds, like that's
a great Yeah, absolutely. But I Want to Be Your Man. So they're hanging out.
Getting back to the Beatles.
They're hanging out with the Rolling Stones back when the Stones are first breaking into the business, and at this point Jagger and Richards don't know how to write, and they're like, "How do you do it? How do you do it?"
The pen's upside down. The cap's still on. They have no paper. They're scratching on a table.
Yeah. Keith's got his knife because he's always like, I always carry a blade on me. If you ever read his autobiography, it's like, good God, man, do you actually think you're a fucking pirate? Yes. But to answer that, but and so Paul McCartney and John Lennon were like, well, like this, and they went off in the corner and they wrote "I Want to Be Your Man." And they were just like, oh God,
fuck.
And I think what's his name, like Lennon was annoyed that it became a fucking hit for the Stones because
probably
when they asked him about it, he's like, well, let me tell you this. We gave it to Ringo to sing. That'll let you know how much I thought about it.
Dude, John, the thing I love about John is he could be such a fucking prick.
Oh, he's easily the biggest asshole.
But like I said, he can it's like having a brother or sister or just a family member. You can rip on them all you want. Like, John could be like, the Beatles suck, this song sucked, this album sucked, and then Mick Jagger would be like, I don't like the, he didn't say this, but he'd be like,
guitar work.
I don't like this. And Len would be like, fuck you, you ripped everything off about us, you fucking suck. Like, he would, the thing I loved, like, seriously loved about Len is he would fight for the Beatles if someone else was talking shit.
Yeah. He was so self-deprecating. He's like, I think my vocals on Lucy in the Sky suck. I think, Paul writes granny shit like when I'm 64. That's what he would always call those kind of more playful songs. But as soon as and it could probably be like the most innocuous thing, like, oh, I think that drum beat's off. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Oh, man. Well, Paul is interesting where, he's the one guy who still believes the White Album should have been a double album,
Oh, yeah.
It's the bloody White Album. It's the Beatles. Shut up. One time he almost loses his cool in the anthology documentary.
Yeah, but the song itself, what do you think of it?
I like it. I mean, I think it's a cheap shot to kind of be like, again, like, hey, we give to Ringo, that's what we thought. But it's a song that is perfect for Ringo, like they knew exactly what they were doing with that. And it's just fun, and you get you even get, Ringo always bobs his head along to whenever he's, playing the drums along. And it's great to watch the live videos because like we were saying earlier on Please Please Me, you get to see the other lads kind of just jam out. They weren't worried about vocal duties, I mean, they'd kick in on the chorus and stuff.
Yeah.
But just it's cool. It's center stage on Ringo and having him rock
chaos.
Out. Yeah, it's the chaos.
Of the song. Yeah. How do you think it stacks up to the Stones version?
The Stones has.
I would say it's better suited for the Stones.
It's better suited for the Stones, definitely. It's the Stones. One thing they're always going to almost every time win out on is having a more raw energy to it, and that's what it has. Ringo's got that kind of like, oh, it's Ringo, it's fun. It's let's have some fun with it, and and Jagger's more of like he's gonna
Street Fighting Man.
My guitar player's got a fucking knife. He's gonna cut you if you fucking hate this song.
Yeah.
Oh, Street Fighting Man, I love that shit.
That's a good one. I thought about doing a similar series to this for the Rolling Stones, and I was like, where the fuck does it end?
Well, no, just mine would be like start with like Beggar's Banquet, and
you don't do Between the Buttons or Aftermath or
just
that means you don't get Satisfaction.
That's fine. We in the beginning we'd be like, hey, Satisfaction has a cool riff. Yeah, like Satisfaction has a cool riff, but you know what's cooler? Everything on Beggar's Banquet, everything on Sticky Fingers.
Let It Bleed.
Let It Bleed too. I mean, like, yeah.
Exile.
Exile. Again, doesn't need to be a double album. There's very few albums in that I've ever listened to. I was like, that needed to be a double album.
Now, you know how I said George Harrison only has 3 lead vocal tracks on this album? Totally got 4.
Oh! Is this going to be my Spectre?
Yeah.
Which one is this again?
Devil in Her Heart.
Oh, yeah.
By Ricky D. It was a cover.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Passable. This is your Spectre.
This is my Spectre, and this is your Quantum.
Yeah.
I love how I don't even get my own fucking analogies correct.
I mean, I don't get my Beatles facts correct.
Yeah.
We're on a Beatles fucking podcast.
Yeah.
But what was the next track is decent and not a second time by John Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of has this kind of almost cascading kind of like
cascading. Good word for it.
Yeah, cascading kind of. There's a technical term for it, but it's like a cascading progression with chords.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you got George Martin on the piano, like we said in the last episode. If it's a Beatle on keyboard, if you hear keyboards, there is a decent chance. Not they get better about it as they go, but there is a decent chance that it's George Martin playing the piano.
And they knew like he's the man. He's the 88 keys.
Well, they outside of McCartney, who had some limited proficiency.
It's his Dick Tracy character.
Yeah. Outside of the playing better already.
Yeah.
The
that was real smart. He's the best piano player in all of blah blah blah.
Yeah. The like after Martin showed them what like technical chords were, because they didn't know what chords were really. After he showed them, they all went out and bought, like, after the success of Please Please Me, they all bought their own pianos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because they're all like, one, I guess pianos were that cheap.
I guess. Yeah.
Also, that album was that successful, more likely.
Well, I always loved that. Speaking of chords, like, Lennon learned his chords on the banjo.
Yeah.
From his mom. So, like,
which is a different string arrangement.
Very much so. So when Lennon and McCartney were sitting at each other, they had the mirror effect because one's right-handed, one's left-handed. And so Paul is the guy like showing him, this is how you play the cowboy chords, for lack of a better thing. And so that's where like a lot of, I feel like that early synergy of like them actually writing nose to nose comes from, like teaching each other those chords. Or more so Paul, not showing, John how this is what you play it on a guitar.
Now, the next track closes out the entire album.
Sexy.
Yeah.
I like this song, man.
Money, That's What I Want.
Yeah.
Yeah, covered by, I guess, it was a Motown track by Barrett Strong.
Yeah. This has a really great groove to it. Like that slow, sexy, like just like unrelenting, just little like swampy fucking beat. I love it, man. I love this.
It was a huge track too, because you know who covered it?
Swampy? What the fuck?
I know it's swampy. Okay, like Come Together has a swampy rhythm.
Good. Yeah.
I get you.
Okay. Because there's a moment it was floating out there, and I was like, there it goes. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck that means. I know what it means.
Yeah.
It's Man Thing's favorite song.
He's not known for being discreet.
If you get that, I will buy you every fucking Beatles album, because I don't know anyone who'll get that reference, but that's fine.
Man. No. Does it hurt?
Only when I laugh.
But yeah, this is a huge fucking Motown number. Like, the Stones cover it in 1964. Of course, the Beatles covered it first, but they really did take a lot of cues from, like,
the Stones.
How does it feel for them to basically be in the Beatles' shadow until 1960?
Here's the thing about the Stones that's interesting to me.
We got some time.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, because like
the album's done.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, get that shit out of the way. Now we can talk about what we really want to talk about. Dick Tracy. No, the early. We may get there. Who knows? The early Stones, I have almost no interest in, really, because for me it was so many people took their cues from the Beatles, and the thing is, but they didn't want to copy them. But you're taking your cues as either we do exactly what the Beatles are doing, or we try to very much do exactly opposite of what the Beatles are doing. And the Stones, for so long, were like, I don't know if it was we can do it better, or it's working, let's get out there, let's do this, the second wave of going in there in the U.S., blah, 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 we have money, we'll do I Want to Be Your Man. But it wasn't until, like you were saying, the Stones realized, wait, like, we're our own band, and I don't know how much of it came from the fucking studio that might have been like, hey, you guys are the
their record label originally wanted them to dress up in identical uniforms and have similar hairstyles like the Beatles.
Yeah,
like a lot of bands, like I feel like were trapped in that. Beach Boys, Birds, Turtles, all kind of had that thing going on. And the Stones, by Keith Richards' admission, was like, we only did that once, and then after that, we threw those uniforms in the fucking garbage.
Yeah. Well, an interesting thing about that too is like just for fun, the whole Beatles Stones thing, a lot of people will be like, oh, look at how prissy high class the Beatles were. Lemmy from Motorhead, which I love when people, he's like, they're the greatest fucking band in the world, man. And
Zombie, too.
Yeah. Rob Zombie, and they asked him his biggest influence. He's like, the Beatles, and the guy was like, so what? But yeah, it's the idea that, the Beatles the Beatles had already done the all leather suits rock and roll thing, and one of their things is they were smart in terms of like they knew how to sell themselves, and is that a bad thing? No, because it worked. They came in, the idea of putting Ringo on basically a quote unquote drum riser on the Ed Sullivan Show, them all being in matching suits, all equal members. It wasn't John Lennon and the Beatles, the
original band name before the Quarrymen, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was in between, was John Lennon and the Silver Beatles.
Yeah, I remember there's Johnny and the Moondogs too.
Yeah,
but never Paulie and the Moondogs.
He gets wings. He gets wings.
Yeah, never Lingo.
Lingo and the
triplets.
Triplets, whatever. I was gonna say Caveman with Barbara Bach.
Lingo, yeah. The Spy Who Loved Me is Lingo.
Yes.
Because yes, he is married. He married a fucking Bond girl, man. Like, people will talk some shit on Ringo, and I hope we can dispel the shit talking of Ringo on this, because
he was the perfect drummer that was tuned in to the rhythm that the band needed.
Yeah, and exactly. And Ringo's not a guy that's like, he's gonna fucking shred. He's gonna do this. Like,
he refused to do drum solos for the longest time.
Well, drum solos are stupid.
Yeah, he's like, why? I'm just the rhythm.
Yeah, I don't.
He was no grandstanding at all.
Yeah, and I think it's sad because I think a lot of people take that as like weakness or not being proficient in your instrument.
Yeah,
and that's totally not true at all, especially with Ringo.
Yeah, just keep the what is the rhythm section? What is the bass and drums there for?
Yeah,
provide rhythm.
Yeah,
what is a rhythm guitar there for?
And if you want like a song where you could be like, all right, you want something fancy for you fancy fuckers out there, listen to Rain.
Yeah. Rain's great.
Even to this day, even this day, Ringo's like, I don't know how I did that.
Yeah, it's like one of the greatest drum fills he's ever done.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit they talk about that one.
Yeah, it's better than his one solo on the end.
Yeah. Well, again, he's kind of like just like, here's my bass.
The rest of the Beatles had to convince him to do it. Yeah. They're like, you've never done one for us, and he's like, fine.
I mean, it was nice that he did. It was nice enough. But yeah.
Everybody else gets solos in that track.
Yeah.
So he needs one too.
Yeah, exactly. What if they all did vocal solos like ho 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 ho?
Yeah.
But the Stones, it's interesting. The Stones got really interesting and really started kicking ass, in my opinion, when they shed the shadow of the Beatles. And it wasn't so much so that because like I was saying earlier, yes, the Beatles were ending, but it was more of they must have fucking sat in a room and been like, fuck it. Like, we're not going to make this horrible, terrible rip off of Sgt. Pepper's, Let It Bleed is a good example of like, that's a badass name, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
And
it refers to like audio bleed.
Yeah. But I mean, it's,
that's not where everyone's mind goes to first.
Yeah. And it's a better album than Let It Be,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Any of those late 60s, early 70s Stones album is better than Let It Be.
Yeah, I mean,
this is coming from like Beatles.
Yeah. That's one of the things I want to stress. Like, if people want to jump on, like, hey, I love the Beatles. Oh, you must hate the Stones. It's like, no, dude. Like I said, like we were saying, the late 60s, early 70s Stones, for me, that's some of the best fucking albums you'll ever hear.
Best fucking rock and roll. That's like listen to Sticky Fingers.
Yeah.
That is like the definition of rock and roll.
Sticky Fingers is like, Bitch is one of just, first of all, and again, it's just, Bitch is one of those tracks that is like pure, no bullshit, stripped down, swampy fucking rock and roll, dude. Actually, that's not a good example of swampy, but like,
it's got the horns.
It does, but it's that song, Bitch, Brown Sugar. But then,
Can't You Hear Me Knocking?
Oh my god! But then it's become one of my favorite Stone songs.
I was at a party, a month ago, I guess. At this point,
you couldn't get in. You're just screaming, "Can't you hear me knocking?"
I was playing like I had DJ duties. Like I was at a friend's apartment and I was like, hitting up stuff from the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And someone was like, "Oh, you got Stones?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got Stones." And
Yeah.
they were like, "Play Wild Horses." And I was like, "Why?
Yeah.
That's just gonna kill the mood." But I played it and it fit.
Yeah. Well,
it's a good chill out song.
An example of on Sticky Fingers, you got all these great rock and roll, kick ass, numbers. But then you get Moonlight Mile, and like Moonlight Mile is unfucking real, man. Like it's so funny we're talking like stripping down Sticky Fingers on a Beatles podcast, but like for real, Moonlight Mile is like one of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah,
and it's one of like, if not my favorite, one of the best Mick Jagger vocals ever.
Yeah, check it out, and check out most of this album.
Yeah,
what were you say now that we're kind of wrapping this up to close this out? What are like if you had to narrow it down to like 5 tracks? What would you say? For me, it would be like Please Mr. Most of them would honestly be covers.
They rock
Please
on
Mr.
covers.
Postman.
I'll take that.
Roll Over Beethoven.
I'll take that.
It Won't Be Long.
I'll definitely take that.
All My Loving.
I'll definitely take that.
And honestly, probably
Till There Was You. That'd probably be on mine.
It's between Don't Bother Me or I Want to Be Your Man.
Oh shit. I do Till There's You. There's something about that. That was when I was like, I'm an adult listening to the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's not even a fucking Beatles.
You just pour a glass of scotch and just like I said, there's
well,
something about
I pour the flat Coke into a glass thing and it looks like and I have like the fucking pretzel stick that looks like a cigar and I'm just like, I'm listening to Till There Was You, Mom.
Yeah.
Record SpongeBob for me, please.
Yeah. There's something about this album and the last album. Now that we're in the holidays, put it on in the background while you're like decorating your tree or while you're just like baking cookies or whatever you do for the holidays.
Yeah. It's funny because there's there's nothing about it that's like Christmas, but it's Christmas. You know what I mean?
It just fits.
Just like James Bond.
Yeah, or Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so this has been another installment of I Want to Tell You. Next month we'll tell you about probably my favorite Beatles album, certainly the high point of the early period. This has been another installment. I'm Sam.
I'm Jake.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.